Gear Tasting Radio is brought to you by Imminent Threat Solutions. ITS provides knowledge that empowers individuals with indispensable skill sets to explore the world and prevail against all threats. Right now, as a special thank you for all podcast listeners, we're offering 10% off in the ITS store. Simply use the code GTR to save 10% at store.itstactical.com. Welcome to Gear Tasting Radio, where we offer an in-depth look into the usage and philosophy behind the equipment in our lives. I am joined as always by Rob Henderson.
Hello.
And I'm Brian Black, bringing you this special 100th episode.
Drum roll. Oh, yeah, you already said 100. Never mind.
Oh, yeah, you're
Post
supposed to do that.
100 drum roll.
Yeah. So what we wanted to do is just recap a couple of things on this 100th episode. First of all, I would like to say thank you to everybody listening out there. We've had a lot of fun doing this show, and that's it. See ya. No.
Goodbye.
Yeah, we've had a lot of fun doing it. We love being able to use this as a way to refine our gear too. So by kind of making these podcasts, we're also kind of refreshing our stuff as well. Just, you know, as we've talked about with the pack that I'm doing, the bug out bag refresh and things like that. It's instilling skills in us as well as you. So I really love that we're able to do that, not only from the personal aspect of it, but what I feel like we're providing to you guys out there too. So, and the philosophy is a big part of it because Rob and I were just talking, and you know, he asked, "Hey, did you switch to blue ink in your pen?" And I said, "Yeah, I started thinking about it, and I said, well, you know, I have sometimes had to sign stuff in blue ink, but I've never been asked to sign anything in black ink. So I figured, well, why not just put blue ink in my pen? So that way I've always got blue ink." So I don't know. It was just a kind of a revelation I had, and I thought it would be neat to try. And I've really, the more that I talk about it and it kind of gets reinforced, I think, well, yeah. And that's kind of what we talk about on these episodes. It's you know, using our experience and things that we've had happen to us, and just kind of philosophically thinking about gear that makes us think about stuff like that.
Yeah, so it keeps us fresh on it too, because we're always having to come up with topics and stuff. So I think it keeps us more in it and thinking about, like, yeah, you should be evolving your gear in everything.
And it's not just from the consumer perspective either. That's not what this is about. It's really a lot of things that we talk about have nothing to do with products per se, but just ways to use your gear differently or even think about it differently. So that's what I really like about the show too. So hopefully you guys are enjoying it. Many more episodes to come, obviously. But that's what we want to do. Wanted to just kind of say a brief thank you. But then we've also got a list of our top episodes. So meaning we went back through analytics and we ranked these according to what has been the most listened to episodes so far. And we've got, what, top 5?
Yep, of the most popular.
We've got top 5 of most popular, and then we kind of have some of our favorites too that we like to go over as well.
Which is a shocker, is not the same 5.
Yeah.
It's a different set.
It's never what you think everybody else liked. It was like,
they're going to love this.
I really love this episode. Like, nobody listened to that, man.
They hated it.
Yeah. And then we've got a couple of questions too. So we decided to throw some questions in because we keep talking about eventually answering some questions. So there you go.
We promised we're going to deliver.
We have 2. We're going to do 2.
Breaking the bank.
All right, so I got a guy for reading off this list.
Special notes.
You don't get a list guy? I
guess we'll cover popular episodes first. So our most popular episode ever was what to keep in an assault pack. I think it's funny because it's like, if you could choose the tone for this show, it's probably the one that matches the least. Yeah. Only second to the second most popular one, which is what to keep in a chest rig.
Yeah.
I think those were good though, because we talked a lot more about, I don't know, the kind of blurred lines between assault pack and like just a regular backpack.
Well, and it also allows you to really kind of look at that as a whole too, because a lot of people that do listen to this podcast are familiar with that terminology in the industry, like assault pack and chest rig and things like that. But what we did really is drill it down to more of like the line 1, line 2, line 3 type of perspective, which is applicable to everybody's daily life. It's not just kind of a chest rig assault pack type thing, but I feel like what I carry in my chest rig are the things that I want accessible to me right away. It's more like my quick reactionary stuff, and everybody has that with what they're carrying when they're hiking and things like that too. So I always want to make sure my trail mix is ready to go.
Well, I was going to say, we talked about even in that episode, there are times when you'll wear a chest rig where you don't have any type of ammunition. It's like navigation equipment or chem lights or things, when we're plotting nav courses at training events and things, it is helpful to have things close at hand. You're not having to constantly dig into a pack.
Yeah, I agree. And then, the pack aspect is things that you don't necessarily need quickly. It's more suited for, being able to sit down and take off your pack or just bring it around to the front, if you want to try to do that on the fly. But yeah, it's more like the tertiary items that you may not need quickly. So,
and then the third most popular episode was the shortcomings of SBRs.
Okay.
Which I thought was interesting. We talked about the difference between those and what's considered a pistol now. And that episode was interesting to me because everything is so fast changing in that environment that, that's why it's always tough to talk about things like that.
Well, what's weird is it's only been the past few years that things have changed so quickly. And I think that's just because the industry is getting so big now that changes are happening more rapidly. And the ATF is kind of being forced to keep up in a way. Much to people's chagrin sometimes, but yeah.
So fourth most popular episode, this was a surprise to me, but it was cold weather layers.
Yeah.
Which is something that I love to talk about.
Yeah. I really like it too.
And it
gives me another chance to push the PCU.
I was going to say the long and short of that is just buy items from the PCU collection.
Yeah. However, I've got a question on that later. So
yes. And then the last one was importance of medical training, which I actually thought was really great to see that was the most popular or fifth most popular because it is really important.
Yeah, I agree.
To have people that have a kit, but not only have it, but have even some rudimentary knowledge about how to put the items into play and know what you need to have for, little stuff or big stuff.
Yep.
And now we have favorite episodes.
Yeah.
And I think one of my favorite is the very first episode we ever did, which was Rethink Your EDC, which, as you were talking at the beginning of the episode, we're still doing. So
exactly. 100 episodes in, I'm still rethinking my EDC. Yeah.
I think that we had...
So the blue ink is definitely an EDC topic. So, yeah.
But I think we had a list of like 30 or 40 items. So it's interesting to see how much has been pared down from what was carried to what's carried now.
Yeah, I think I did a video on Instagram of my EDC recently. And, now I've started to carry like a card sleeve rather than a full-on wallet. And, I've decided that the only thing I really want to keep in my wallet that's a tool, so to speak, is a pair of lockpicks. So that's really all I keep in there. I keep, I make sure I have some cash, and that's more on I have this rubber band money clip that I really like. And I don't even put the cash in my card sleeve. It's just purely for cards, which I kind of like the utility of that. So, just even rethinking it that's probably been within the past 6-8 months that I've probably moved to that. So, and I'm really digging it. Now we're talking about, we have lots of EDC conversations. We don't really realize we have EDC conversations because we were just talking this morning about iPhones.
Yep.
We needed a new warehouse iPhone because some of our software for shipping and inventory runs off that stuff. So we had just got a new iPhone SE because they were on sale refurbished from the Apple Store, and we're saying, man, I really love the size of this thing. It's so
just
small.
The best footprint iPhone you can get.
And it's amazing. The phones have, grown so much in size, and, you kind of like look at those fondly after.
It is. It's like a little nostalgia trip. Yeah. Like, I remember.
Oh, it's so cute.
I remember I thought this was huge.
Yeah. I mean, if they just made that screen full width on that size, I'd be all over it.
Yep. I would be buying.
Those are the old phones, too, that used to be able to stand up and use that app where it, like, turns around and gives you a 360
and you could
photo.
Set it on the table and not have it, like, give you a little bit of bounce because the camera's just sticking off there.
Yes.
Yeah. I remember those days.
Yep.
Pepperidge Farm remembers.
I don't need another step between me and toast.
Second of our favorite episodes was how to set up your campsite, which I thought was fun because it's something simple that a lot of people don't think about. Like, what do you mean look up in the trees? Like, don't get hit.
No, it's great. I think that's a skill in itself. I really do. That, just knowing kind of where to put up your camp, where to watch for water runoff, looking at tree limbs above you. Are those dead? Is there potential of them falling on me when I'm in my hammock tonight? Should I put up my rainfly?
Yeah. Is the morning wind going to kill me?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I think it takes maybe setting up a couple bad campsites to realize, like, oh no, this is terrible.
Kind of like your hammock camping lately.
Yeah, that was. I've been experimenting in hammock camping, and it's gone okay. It's cold. That's the.
Well, I love it because we've talked about things, and I had conveyed some things to you that I'd learned over the years of hammock camping, and it's like the weekends you'd come back and be like, hey, you remember when you said that? Yeah.
Yeah, you said take a ground pad when it was 30 degrees, and I'm pretty sure it saved me.
Yeah.
Because I was even chilly with the ground pad in the hammock.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And now you're all into like down blankets.
Get in the underquilt and
yeah.
like, I'll take the extra weight to be comfortable.
So literally you're just building a tent around you.
A suspended tent.
Yeah.
Sleeping in a taco.
Yeah. All right, what's the next one?
The last one of our favorite ones that I really like is buy cheap, buy twice.
Yeah.
And that is, we covered a ton of stuff in that, but I think that's just an overall philosophy, whether it's EDC or you're buying camping gear or whatever.
Yep.
There are a lot of instances, and it doesn't mean that it's going to be the most expensive thing. It's just, I think cheap is like a mindset instead of, it doesn't have to be, what's the most expensive thing? It's like, hey, what's the best reviewed? What's the thing that people put the most fingers on, when they get to doing this thing versus like, I'm going to go to my local sporting goods store and just load up on the cheapest stuff I can find.
Well, and I also think the title is deceiving a little bit too, because, the whole buy cheap, buy twice thing. Yes, that's true, but in essence, what it really means is buy quality, so you don't buy again.
Yeah,
and that's what I've been guilty of that many times. Even to this day, I'll find something that I need, and I'll go, let me just go look on Amazon and see if I can find that because I know I can get it really quick. I've got Prime.
Yep.
And I'm guilty of just pulling the trigger and then getting it. And I'm like, oh my God, that's cheap.
Yeah.
And I'll do a return.
Yep.
So I don't want to be that customer that gets booted off Prime for too many returns. So I'm very careful with that.
Sure.
However.
Well, but even so much of like, I've been in physical stores too, where it's like, they have this and this or this, but this is the only one they have. I'm like, well, I'll just buy it because I need it right now. And it's like, do you really need it right now? Or could you wait 3 or 4 days for it to come in and then have the thing that you really want versus the thing you settled for?
Yeah. That's more of a financial philosophy too.
True.
That I'm also guilty of that I need to work on is that, you see something you want and you just buy it rather than waiting and see if you can find it for cheaper or ask yourself in a couple of days after sleeping on it, do I still want that? So, yeah.
The answer is yes. And I'm so glad I just need your purchase.
God, I should have just bought that. Yeah. Now I can't find it. They sold out. Yeah. Been there too.
Yep. So we got 2 questions.
Okay.
First one's from Colton. He says, I'm about to complete my CERT course and wondered what other courses you recommended taking.
Cool. So CERT is great in your local community. Not only does it kind of as a review for people that don't know what CERT is, it's Community Emergency Response Training or TEAM. I can't remember what the T stands for, training or team. Either way, I think it's TEAM because you train to be a team.
Yeah.
So it's TEAM, yeah. But it's usually hosted through your local fire department or your, basically your police station or something like that.
Municipality.
Yeah. And I've also seen EMTs, going or teaching in certain sections of that too. So it kind of covers a lot of things. It covers emergency response. It covers triage, which is kind of the big part of what CERT is. So a city will call in a trained CERT team. So people that have been through CERT training, you'll get recalled basically to come assist. And more than likely, you are going to be assisting in a triage type event. So meaning if there's a lot of injuries, you're going to be helping to categorize basically a mass casualty or mass trauma event or mass anything. That's really where they'd utilize the support for an agency like that. So there's a huge storm that blows through and with a tornado, then there's just devastation everywhere and they really need to have a localized point to gather people and figure out if they need to be treated or what happened to them. So,
and your CERT job may be as simple as like pointing people to the big tent, that people are going to.
But again, it's a need in certain situations. So, but they have a medical element to it. Cribbing is a big thing. So meaning like how to build up a wedge to pry a big heavy object off of somebody or something. There's a lot of elements to it, and I definitely highly recommend it. I feel like I'm always picking things apart, and of course there's things that I saw, that could be improved, but at the same time, I thought it was great training, and it's great basic level training for many people. There's no prerequisite.
Yeah, if you're looking for someplace to start, it's awesome.
Yeah, and then also there's kind of your local, what do you call that when you do like a police academy type thing.
Citizens Police Academy.
Yeah,
that's another
Police
great
Academy.
course.
Yeah,
a lot of times they're free.
Yep, and then they also do them for the fire department sometimes. Those are great courses, and then really just kind of CPR, Red Cross type of thing is an amazing training to have, and I really think that kind of gives you a pretty good gamut of stuff. And then from there, if you really want to kind of go down the rabbit hole, then you can get into kind of the private training venue where you go to different medical classes, or if you're into shooting classes. But I've said before in this podcast that I think people put a lot more weight than they need to sometimes into training with firearms. Yeah. Because it kind of seems like that's the first response to things, is that I need to know how to shoot a gun the best way that I can. And yeah, I mean, I get it. I'm not disparaging that at all, but I think there's many other places that you can kind of share your training dollar around with, more so than only firearm stuff.
Well, and with stuff like that, you can get a lot of training from repetition.
Yeah.
You get people that are saying, I want to get my first gun. I have $700. It's like, cool. You get a $400 gun and $300 in ammo, and then go figure it out.
Actually, I'd buy it too, try to get it as cheaply as possible and spend the rest on training.
Yeah.
But yeah. However, so some other things that I'd recommend, the NOLS stuff, like the outdoor, I can't remember what that stands for, National Outdoor Leadership School or something like that. They do different classes in like climbing is one, so they do stuff with rappelling and rigging and things like that too. So that's a good program to look into, and I will put all this in the episode intel, because
that sounds like
I feel
a
like
cool
I'm kind of
program.
talking outside of what I thought I understood. But anyway, I just forget the acronym. I know what NOLS is.
We can look it up and put the acronym in there.
But either way, those are all great things to look into, and I think that kind of exploring the private training venue is probably where I'd go.
Yeah,
what I'd recommend.
Yeah, awesome. So last question that we have is from Randall, and it has to do with winter layers, which we love.
Honey Badger Randall.
I can't remember. I think we've answered his questions before.
Okay.
He asks a lot of questions, which is great. Continue that. He says, how often do you wear PCU grid fleece clothing? I'm talking both tops and bottoms.
I remember when that question came in, because I was literally wearing a level 2 top.
Yeah,
when we read that.
This is
I just happened to be wearing that today. Actually,
wasn't planned at all.
Yeah, I do wear PCU a lot, and I always default to the level 2 stuff. So kind of the mid-layer, half-zip, waffle grid fleece stuff. I really like that layer. I think it's a great mid-layer. I always find myself being warm with that layer as kind of an additional lining under a jacket, between just a shirt and that. The question was also bottoms, right?
Yeah.
So I don't wear the bottoms from PCU hardly ever. Yeah. I mean, it's just, we were in... So I keep going back to the Mammoth experience on this, but however, it tested me a lot. And I learned a lot about myself through that event. So it's one that I fall back on when I talk about stuff, because we were in, I think it was like -6 or something like that weather. And I didn't have any kind of bottoms on. So, and the reason is that, actually, no, I take that back. I put them on at night. So I would put bottoms on, then I would put my pants back on, and that's what I slept in. So I would insulate myself when we got done off the trail. And then when we started to walk again, we warmed up so quickly, even in cold weather, that I wound up sweating right through them, and I was like, this is crap. I don't want to wear these anymore. So,
and that's the problem with bottoms versus the top. The top, you can stop real quick, take it off if you're sweating through that. But with bottoms, it's like, especially if you're wearing a belt setup, you have to take all that off and then just drop your pants.
Well, yeah. So that was an interesting venue too, because we couldn't stop. So meaning, like, once they started the clock on the ruck portion of those, when you'd move between stations, you had to just deal with whatever you had on, and you had to keep walking. And I had hiking poles too. So what would happen is that I would keep gloves on, and then I'd be able to pull those off after a certain amount of time, because my hands would get so hot. And I always have kind of cold appendages, whether it's my hands or my feet. They kind of stay cold. And I found that just starting with gloves on was the ticket. And then after a while into the hike, I was able to take those off. And I kind of did it on the go, too. Like, we never dropped our pace, and we never stopped.
You could regulate, I guess, with pit zips, too.
Well, yes, and that's what I had. On my shell, I had pit zips, and I did open those up And that's what they're for. They're for kind of that quick venting like that. And then by the time we got into the station where we were supposed to be, and granted it wasn't, negative whatever during the day, it was probably
a hearty 5.
No, I mean, it got into like the 20s, 25, somewhere in there. So, by the time we got in, sometimes I would have a beanie on, sometimes I wouldn't, and I'd immediately start to throw on layers as soon as I got in. So you basically, if you're going to exert yourself, you want to have like the minimum amount of clothing that you can deal with on, because you're going to wind up wanting to strip it all off. And you'll learn that the hard way. And then, it happened to me at times in my life too. I've gone starting out with so many clothes, and especially during an event like that, a misjudgment, definitely you feel it and you remember that forever.
Yeah.
Hey, I know that it's like the whole Bourne thing. He's like, I know that at this temperature I can run for this many miles and, whatever.
I know that I'll sweat through this shirt in 15 seconds.
Right.
Yeah.
So you too can be Bourne.
Well, and I think it is one of those, like, if you can keep your, what I would call the core warm, which is like waist to the neck of like a good vest or shirt or jacket or whatever, if you can keep that warm, cold legs sucks, but like it's not as bad as like having a cold chest.
Yep.
Stuff like that. So that's why I think
I agree
I gravitate more toward the tops. Because like answering the question, how often do you wear the tops? All the time. Bottoms, I don't even have level 2 bottoms. Like I haven't made that purchase yet.
Well, so the one thing I'll say too is that I've never worn the level 2 bottoms. I've worn the level 1 bottoms. So what I was putting on before I put on my pants were the level 1 bottoms. Just because I do feel the same way. I feel like my core heats up, faster than my legs, and I don't find that I need it. However, I always have some kind of a beanie on. It's kind of a misnomer because a lot of people say you lose so many percentage of heat. It's lost through your head, and yes, you lose heat through your head, but it's not the level at which people say it's like 60% or something like that. It's you lose heat, but it's just not an astronomical amount. However, I always try to have at least a beanie on too.
Well, and when you're mixing that physical exertion, like you talked about, let's say you could stand there in that negative temperature and you could have everything on and feel like I'm never going to heat up. And then you'll walk for 5 minutes and you'll be like, I have to get all of this off.
Yep. Yeah, and one thing I'll mention too, since it's kind of just popped into my head, is that when you're exerting yourself like that, you want a beanie too that is going to either wick sweat or something that's going to probably be a synthetic, not necessarily wool or something like that. If you're in a static environment, wool is great. It's very insulative. However, if you're sweating your butt off while you're hiking, you're going to sweat right through that, and it's going to be miserable. Yeah. So you'll feel like you're wearing a wet rag on your head.
And then you stop, and it gets real cold.
Yeah. So just
terrible.
FYI.
Yeah.
And insulated gloves, I can't recommend those highly enough. I mean, a lot of people just think I can just throw a shell glove on or a thin glove, and you really need some insulation there. At least me personally.
Yeah.
I always try to make sure I've got some insulation in my gloves.
I was going to say to you, I'm also quick to layer. Like if I get somewhere and we're stopped and I feel even the slightest bit like cold's coming on, I'll put gloves on. And a lot of times people will be like, are you throwing gloves on already? Like, I don't want to get a chance to get cold. Like if I can stay warm, that keeps me happier.
Well, there's also kind of this inherent, I don't want to look like I'm showing a sign of weakness by putting on
nope, I'll be weak. I don't care.
Yeah. And that's it. Okay. So another mammoth story. That's what happened when, my buddies and I, there was 4 of us that all kind of knew each other that competed at Mammoth. So the first year that we did that all together as a group, however, 2 of those people had done it a couple of years, but I brought hiking poles, and I got made fun of left and right. They're like, "Oh, you don't need a hiking pole. You're fucking trekking poles going up and down. You don't need those." And sure enough, the second year we did that, everybody had hiking poles. So
funny how that works.
Yeah, but sometimes you just got to take the heat, and you got to go clickety clack down the street and deal with it.
Moving along like a robotic gazelle.
Yeah, click clack, click click.
You got your little technique down?
Oh yeah. Yeah, on the downhills, you kind of go over the top of your hiking sticks, so you're kind of bracing yourself going down a hill, and then going up, you want to kind of be in the loops, so you're being supported by the loops as you're hiking up. So
nice.
Yeah, there is a little bit of a technique, and it's a learned thing. I mean, I can tell you, but you'll figure. I mean, you figure it out really quick when you start doing that because you you feel like you can't get a hold of them as you're going downhill. But as you're going up, you say, well, I need more of a brace. And
Some
then
support.
your thumbs kind of start curling over that strap and kind of learn. But, yeah.
Nice.
All right, so thanks for listening. Again, we've really had fun doing 100 episodes of this. I really can't believe we're on episode 100.
I know.
It's kind of been a cool journey, and we like that you guys like it too. So if you got questions, please continue to use the Pound Tag Ear Tasting, and we will continue to answer them. It's great to have those kind of short questions like that because it opens up all kinds of dialogue that is locked away in here somewhere that I tend to forget.
Down here.
Most times. Right in here.
In the heart.
More so the heart area. Anyway, we've also got our crew leader membership. We can't thank you enough for your support. However, if you want to kind of directly contribute to the show, our crew leader membership allows you to do that. We'd be very grateful for your membership, and we give you back something in return, like a cool discount on the store and things like that. But even if you can't and you don't want to support us in that way, even just leaving a review or a rating on iTunes would be amazing. That kind of helps Apple show around our podcast and get it into more eyes and more ears, I guess. Not eyes, ears.
Either or, whatever.
Put it in your ear holes.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening. See you next week.